Reading in the first read series. In this series, I read a poem by a poet I don't know or know very little about, and just read for the sheer joy of reading. I don't try to really explain it in any way to teach it. I don't try to delve into it. I usually do that when I come back to it. I just have the sheer joy of reading. I picked these fairly randomly, and this is from Apartment Poetry. If you haven't seen this little online journal, you should check it out. It has these kind of fun issues where each apartment on here gets a name, and this is 13C. I picked it randomly. I always pick these randomly. 13C is Kirsten Ihns or Ihns. I'm sorry, Kirsten. I don't know her work at all, or their work at all. So I'm just going to go through and read it. I don't know. Sometimes there's a little bio. This one doesn't have a bio. So before I read, I always look at the form. I like to see, play around with what expectations are there based on the form. And I look at this one, and it's all over the page a little bit. It looks more like something you see in open field poetics, where the poets are using the white space of the page to really play around in. And so I'll just interact with it as I see it. I kind of think in that kind of setting, the lines tend to mirror or play around often with what's being said. So the form is trying to match the idea a little bit more. So Parish Hybrid. I'm not really sure what to make of this title. Maybe when going through it, I'll get something. The orange, pushing the memory of its tree through the air. Really like the sound here. Really nice feel for the line break in these first few lines. The orange pushing the memory of its tree through the air. It's really kind of a neat image too, the idea of this orange pushing the tree. I almost like the imaginary tree here. Beamingly originary. Well, like the imagined tree is the origin of the orange. So emphatically pushing it up. The orange doing this. I welcome the copy when it comes, so relieved. I was looking for a skill, not an origin. That's really just fun. The idea of not like dismissing the origin story there for the actual thing that's here in front of you, the skill of the thing, the orange itself, not where it came from, just the joy of the thing as it is, or the skill, whatever it is, whether it's an orange or not. Relatedly missed up the window when I want you to not look out, but it felt very dear in the completeness dark. Relatedly missed up the window when I want you not to look out. So this desire for the person not to look out the window, but the window is misting up, so the person is doing it, right? It's like the thing you don't want that's happening. So I put my relation to myself out into the woods. This is like the origin, like the orange is like pushing itself, the tree up, the origin. So my relation to myself, the copy, the hybrid, I suppose, from the beginning. Like the orange is somehow hybrid for the origin orange. So this person's putting the relation in the woods where that person is looking, and then I went to look for it, and then goes to look for that relation that's out there. This is a fun game. It feels like a game in this way, like putting some image, some idea, some relation of yourself outside as if you're the origin and that's the relation. That's the mask and you're the origin somehow. But maybe the mask is more significant in what's happening in life. This is not structured by the limits. Well, that's just fun. The idea that the limits, who knows exactly what they are in relation to this point, but by the limits of what is real, because putting a relationship outside in the woods isn't real, but it's an idea. It's something imagined, so you don't have to be structured by the limits, which is kind of like the poetic itself. Of the social, not structured by the limits of the social. The line break is really cool right there. Love how it does that. By the limits, you don't know what limits, and then it's of the social. The social limits, of course, relate I think, clearly to the reality, but also if in this instance, the poet seems to be pulling back that two people from just a few lines ago back into it. Except insofar as they're viewing technology, I say to myself as I step in the orange. Well, this is neat because the orange, of course, is now at this point gone away from the idea of orange. It's almost like this is orange, the color, but the color is a thing in space or an idea that you can step into and out of, and that's more important than the origin. I could only see that it wished to abandon its recognizable qualities. I could only see it now was. So this was as if the orange itself has a desire not to be recognized, not to have its origins recognized. That is a really interesting play when you put that into the context of two people and or you putting your relationship out in the woods, not wanting to be recognized, especially in the context of others, the social context. Like it's almost anti the contemporary sense of what do you do as a if you go into some kind of therapy or something, it's like, well, you want to be as honest or as not honest, as true to what you really are. Whereas this is kind of playing around with the opposite. The relation is wanting to seek out, to abandon its recognizable quality. So it's no longer even a hybrid. It's dived in and become something else. Fruit cocktail, almost amongst hedges. Genre, red, yellow, stone, cherry cobbler, nothing like itself. Cause for concern, leaf, glue-like. And each of these things strays further away from what an orange is, like elegiac glue. And then it just turns into citrusy glue. But it's weird because I think as a reader you can recognize that kind of glue, the citrusy glue, and how it's come there. But it seems so far away from that original image of the orange. It's like when you see, citrusy cleaner, it's almost very hard to walk back to the orange. Like the hybrid version of it somehow perished. It's transformed. Fascinating. Really enjoyed this one. I'm interested to see what else there is by this poet. There's a lot of play in the page in these other ones, so definitely we'll have to check out this poet. Apartment Poetry, definitely worth a look if you haven't seen it before.